Hello, everyone. I am Nirubali. As a career and university counselor, I come across students who are intrigued by law. And today, we have a well known lawyer, Professor Arjiya Majumdar, from the prestigious Jindal Global Law School. He teaches corporate law and related subjects at the university. Prior to joining Jindal Global Law School, he was working as a corporate lawyer with law firms such as Economic Laws Practice, Fox Mandel and Desai and Devanji. As a corporate lawyer, Mr. Majumdar was advising large corporate houses and PSUs on matters relating to mergers and acquisitions, capital markets, foreign investments into India, joint ventures, and private equity. He has also provided interpretative opinions on Indian commercial law. And today, I would like him to share his knowledge with our audience. We also have a young guest speaker, Drishti Saraf, second year BBA LLB from Jindal Global Law School, to share her experience with us. Welcome, both of you, to Speaker Series Event 2021.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much for that warm introduction, Neeru ma'am. It's been absolutely amazing. And we're both, I can speak for Drishti and myself, we're both very, very excited to be here today. Shall we begin?
Our team and our audience are absolutely looking forward because I know Jindal Global Law School is one of the prestigious in India. And they are all looking forward to hear from you today.
Wonderful. So in which case, let us get started. So I'd like to start with a general introduction to law in higher education, right? Now, law as a subject matter permeates into every aspect of our lives. The fact that you are watching this on a YouTube channel or some other live streaming network is subject to some kind of copyright law. It is subject to privacy law. The fact that I am able to speak to you through a webcam is subject to some laws that apply to the capturing of video and audio. Think about it. Law permeates into how we live, how we travel, how we not travel, and hopefully you're not traveling right now. It permeates even into what we eat and where we can't eat, and even how we get married. As a result, law is all around us, whether we see it or not. Many students used to believe, and this is back in the 20th century, back in the 60s and 70s, that law would be an appropriate career option for those people who could not get into medical or engineering. And that if agar kuch nahi aata hai, to law kar lo. But things have changed since then. With the advent of the 5-year law program, the 5-year BA LLB, or the BBA LLB, which my good friend Drishti Saraf is presently studying. With the advent of these 5-year integrated programs, the options for lawyers have grown multifold. There are now lawyers in every part of the country, and there is huge demand for quality legal advice, whether it's in courts or in boardrooms. And of course, we'll discuss more about what are the careers after law, and you might be surprised. But there is a huge demand for quality lawyers. Now, many people might think that law is boring and it's stuffy and it's only meant for old men, but that couldn't be further from the truth, as my good friend Drishti Saraf will tell you. So let me start with this. Drishti, what made you choose law? You were a very bright student in school, if I recall, Ecole Global in Dehradun.
Yes,
but what made you choose law? Let me start with that.
I always had an inclination towards criminal law, criminology and crimes and criminal law. So that was the main starting point where I wanted to pursue law, because there are so many things that I needed to know about crime, about criminal law, how one can actually resolve them. And that was one of the starting points where I wanted to take law and not any other field. So I went ahead with that. That was my call for taking up
Right.
law.
Wow. So you are one of the lucky ones that knew exactly what you wanted to do right from a very young age. I'm so happy. I'm so happy you have that. Now, my story is slightly different, and my story takes place in 2001 when I started going to law school. I did not want to be a lawyer. I had no idea I wanted to be a lawyer, but I wanted to do journalism. And one day, and I was ready for a career in journalism. But one day, my mother came home and said, "Here is an application form. Fill it out." It was an application form to a law school nobody had heard of. I was in Calcutta at the time as a young class 12 student, and this was an application form to the National University of Juridical Sciences, NUJS, Calcutta. Nobody had heard of it back then. Then I went and appeared for the entrance exam. It was an all India entrance exam that took place in many cities across India. And I didn't study for it because I wanted to do journalism. This is all pastime, right? And then I got an all India rank of 32, right? So that's when I realized that the people who set the paper, the people who corrected my answer scripts, they're obviously law professors. They thought that my answers were good enough that I might be taught law too. Now, I am 17 years old. These people are, older, much older, wiser, more mature. So I thought, okay, they must know more, they must know better. So I said, okay, thank you very much, and I'll start studying law. Right? So my entry into law was more or less accidental. Right? Now, once you get into law school, I didn't know what was happening, right, to begin with, because I came from a science background. I had physics, chemistry, maths with computers. So what people would call non-medical these days. And the aspiration of my parents who put me into science stream, like aspirations of most Indian parents nowadays, even now, it was that, either become a doctor or an engineer, right? Seems to be the mindset still. So coming from a science background, I found it really difficult to start understanding concepts like concepts in political science, in sociology, in economics, because we had never been taught that in high school, right? So Drishti, what was your experience like moving from high school to law school? Did you have a science background?
No, sir, I didn't. I had a commerce plus arts background.
All right, so an
I
interdisciplinary background.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right.
So I switched to BBA LLB as mentioned earlier. So it was a little difficult because I had never done accounts during my 11th and 12th grade, and having subjects like, and I didn't even have maths. So having subjects like mathematics, accounts, corporate finance, it became a little difficult to understand all the concepts. But the professors and my classmates have been always very helpful to help me and guide me throughout the subjects. And when it comes to law, nobody is prepared to join a law school because we aren't taught legal knowledge through our school life. So there it is like a fresh start. You start with forming your and establishing your base right from the first year itself.
Right. No, it's actually true because law is something that, like you rightly pointed out, Drishti, it's not taught in schools at all, except for maybe a little bit about the Constitution if you take up
Constitution.
civics, right?
Yes, sir.
And
Yes,
yes,
sir.
I agree that every student should learn a little bit at least about the Constitution, whether or not you're a law student, that you have certain fundamental rights, that you have certain fundamental duties, that there
Yes,
is
sir.
the Supreme Court of the country, right? So, but here's what I learned, that if you come from, no matter what background you come from, so Drishti comes from a commerce background, but she didn't have accounts, and now she does, and now she has to learn accounts from scratch. I came from a science background. I couldn't even spell political science correctly back when, right? And I made a lot of mistakes. But I think what Drishti pointed out is very, very important in the sense that if you have teachers who are supportive, if you have friends and classmates who are supportive, right? Any obstacle can be crossed. Any obstacle can be overturned, right? So what that means is that those of us who have some inclination towards becoming a lawyer, towards becoming, or I won't even say lawyer, and we'll come to why not a lawyer, but some inclination towards studying law, it becomes absolutely important to understand that you will need the support of your faculty members, you will need the support of your seniors and of your batchmates, right? I was very fortunate. My seniors at NUJS were very, very supportive. They were encouraging. And in a way, they helped me through a lot of things in law school. Has it been the same for you, Drishti, about your seniors
Yes,
in
sir.
gym?
In JGLS, you feel a very inclusive environment. The seniors do not act like seniors or authoritative. They act like your friends. They help you. They share their experience with different subjects, and they tell you that how to approach to a subject, how to approach to the faculty members. And the faculty is also very welcoming and very supportive. And because your classmates are really good, and they'll help you at every single stage
Right.
during the whole semester.
You'll need to figure out the vibe of the place before you get there, really. But I want to switch paths in this conversation a little bit. A lot of people, in school, they feel that law means a lot of studying, a lot of text, right? And let's face it, Drishti, you and I, we know this. Maybe the people who are listening to this, maybe they have not been exposed. But I have two words for you: Keshavananda Bharati. Right? Now, ladies and gentlemen, there is a reason why Drishti Saraf has broken into laughter because I said Keshavananda Bharati. Yes, Keshavananda Bharati, it was a holy man, a god man, but he's more famous in the legal fraternity because he gave rise to a case that went up to the Supreme Court, a case concerning the basic structure of our constitution. I'm not going to bore you with constitutional law details, but just suffice to say that that one case written by the judges of our Supreme Court is over 1,000 pages long. Now that itself would put people off, studying law because, oh my God, one case is 1,000 pages long. And it's true that we do have to read a lot. But I want to know, Drishti, how do you deal with that? I mean, the sense is that, you do have to study a lot. You do have to put in many hours. So is studying law very difficult?
Personally, studying law is not very difficult. I agree there is a lot of text to read. You have long judgments. You have the text to understand the law, the acts. But it's not boring, and it's not lengthy. And you can easily, like, it's very important to balance your time when you are studying law, because you have a lot to cover during those 10 semesters. You still will, at the end of 10 semester, you might still feel you haven't done enough because there is so much, especially in Indian law, to cover. And you need to know, you need to read text, you need to judgment to understand the interpretation of the courts and the judges, how they have interpreted the text of the law. And it's made primarily about your interest and your inclination towards understanding the subject. If you know the concept, it won't take time to actually read the text or read the judgments, because you will have the understanding inside your head, and you will
Right.
be able to comprehend the whole text of the given chapter or judgment.
Or the concept, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I
So
think what happens is that over time, and this is not something that you can teach in high school. Over time, we pick up tips and tricks on how to condense that literature, that whatever is being written, right? What to look for if I'm looking at a 500-page judgment, what words do I look for? And it's become easier with technology because if I know what word I have to look for, I'll simply do a Control F. Back in the day when I was studying law, you had to go through each and every page, which was terrible. But nowadays, with the click of a button, it's easy to figure out, to zoom in and hone in on what exactly you need to pick up from a lengthy text. So these are tips and tricks that will be taught over time during your time in law school. And I think it's a method that is continuously refined. I keep refining it, even though it's been 20 years since I went to law school. Right. The last bit of our conversation, Drishti, I want to talk a little bit about careers after law. Right. Now, most people would believe that, you would have to go to court, wear a gown, do tariq pe tariq or milad, that, this the kind that's depicted on Bollywood, right?
Yes.
But ever since I've graduated in 2006, um, I have not entered a courtroom, right? So obviously, litigation is one of the mainstream sort of careers after law, where you go to court, you argue a case before a judge, or you arbitrate, which is basically a private court, right? Or you get into mediation, so some kind of dispute resolution, or you kind of prevent disputes by getting into transaction law or commercial law or corporate law, what I used to do. So those of you who are watching, if you've seen Suits, I would play the role of Harvey Specter. And it's only about 8 years ago that I took off the suit and put on the Nehru jacket, right? So Drishti, apart from these traditional careers of either a litigating lawyer or a dispute resolution lawyer or a corporate lawyer, do you think there are any other non-mainstream sort of options after law?
There are various options for law today. Some people, as you said, go for litigation or commercial law. Some people go and join judiciary after law,
Yeah.
and others, they go for being a legal advisor to major entrepreneurs, major companies, or they try to become academicians like professor who took
As it,
academics, and my sister who is also law professor. And it's really really good to see that law doesn't restrict you to a few professions but has expanded the scope of professions and arenas you can choose after studying law, because 5 years down the lane you may not want to be a litigator,
yeah.
you may not want to become a judge, you might just want to take up a whole another, you might just want to join business, like I'm doing BBLLB, I might just want to start a new enterprise. But there as well, law will help me because I'll know the legal background from company law, commercial law, and I'll know how I need to run my company,
Right.
how I need to
So,
survive in the
at this
life.
point in time, Drishti, I just had an idea, and I want to share this idea with everyone who's listening in. What does law school give you? Law school gives you a very particular set of skills. Now we're getting into what kind of skills does law school give you. So we talked about lengthy texts, dense material that you have to cut through the fluff and get to the point. So what you're doing is you're eliminating the immaterial, right? You are asked to solve disputes. You're asked to resolve disputes, which means that you are building skills in problem solving. You are asked to write papers. You're asked to be argumentative, to present your argument properly, right? So let me just sum that up. Get to the point, solve the problem, and deliver a compelling argument or a compelling, story. Are these skills that can apply to multiple careers? In my view, absolutely. I have long believed that a combination of law and an MBA is a formidable one. But a similar combination can exist with pretty much any other career. So you want to get into, let's say, international relations, law. You want to get into business, like Drishti pointed out, law. You want to get into marketing, right? As a lawyer, you're trying to think what your opponent is thinking. As a marketer, you're trying to think what your audience is thinking, right? So in my view, law school, a good law school should be able to give you the kind of skills that are transferable in nature, that are universal in nature, including, like I mentioned, problem solving, critical thinking, communication skills, right? And eliminating the immaterial from the material, right? So effectively, what I think we can conclude with is that law or studying law after high school doesn't necessarily mean that you have to end up as a lawyer. It doesn't mean that you have to go to court. It doesn't mean you have to go to a boardroom and behave like Harvey Specter. It doesn't mean that you end up being a social activist, right? There are, as Drishti mentioned, there are endless possibilities beyond a career, beyond studies in law, right? And I would like more and more people to consider law as a choice for higher education, away from the traditional, away from what we've seen so far in India in general. Now, yes, the mushrooming of law schools across India is a good sign, and I know there is quality legal education, not just at Jindal, but in a number of other national law schools across the country. And I would like people to start thinking a little bit more creatively beyond the Tariq pe Tariq. So Neeru ma'am, that's our 20 minutes. If you'd like, you can come back on stage.
I, this conversation was so interesting. One of the interesting, I think, speaker series event till date. And all the audience, I'm sure, would have fallen in love with law listening to you. They have been liking Harvey Specter, but listening to you, they are intrigued, I'm sure. And I'm sure they're intrigued. Drishti, it has been really nice listening to you, your experience, and what you think of law and Jindal Law School. Now,
Thank
the
you,
few
ma'am.
questions which we have is how Jindal Global Law School is different from other law schools.
Drishti, do you want to take this question?
Sure, sir. So, in general, we aren't just taught law. And of course, there are integrated courses like BA and BBA, but just restricting to law, like concerning law, we aren't just taught law. We are also given opportunities to. So we have 10 schools in Jindal, and we can pick and choose subjects known as electives from all these schools. And we can connect them to our study of law and increase and widen our skills. I don't think such opportunities are given in other law schools. Some law schools do not have 3-year LLB course, like unlike Jindal, and it only carries 5-year integrated degree. But
Right.
Jindal gives you the option. And recently we have also started the subject of BA Legal Studies, where you aren't focusing corely on law, but you are also understanding the social aspect and application of law along with various subjects. And this is what is different about Jindal then when compared to other law schools, that it just doesn't restrict you to the basic law, to the baseline law, but it gives you an edge over it. It makes you focus, and it makes you think about what else can be included under law.
Right. No, I think that's a very important statement to make, Drishti. So when we started this session, we said that law permeates into everything that we do, which means that we need to place the study of law in the greater context of the world. So what Drishti pointed out was something very interesting in the sense that students of law can take up courses from other schools. So if, let's say, a student is interested in financial law or commercial law, they should be able to take up courses from a banking finance school, from a business school, right? And more importantly, sit alongside an MBA student and learning not just from the faculty, but learning from the student sitting next to you, right? Who comes from a completely different discipline. This is something that you might not get at, the most prestigious national law schools, whether it's Bangalore, Calcutta, Hyderabad, Gandhinagar, etc.
I believe this is because OP Jindal is a liberal arts university. So you have the options of taking a lot of, number of subjects during your entire 4 years, I believe.
Or
And you have
entirely
like
4 out of 5 years. And just to give you an idea of how many subjects there are, this semester we floated across the university. We floated about 300 optional subjects, of which 175 are what Drishti mentioned, between schools or cross-registered
Awesome.
subjects. 175.
This is awesome.
Yeah.
Amazing. This is an amazing number of subject choices. Yeah, this generation is spoiled for, different kinds of academic
I mean, you could learn
courses.
anything from advanced econometrics to West African slave trade in the 16th century. That's the range you've got.
Wow. Wow.
Right.
Okay, where does Jindal Global Law School students end up working?
Right. So I can speak on this. So our students, when they graduate, they go usually to four different sort of arenas, and this is I'm completely generalizing. There will be exceptions. So the first arena is going into corporate law. So the leading corporate law, firms, these, I don't know whether people would have heard of these names. So Shardul Amarchand, Khaitan, Jyoti Sagar, Luthra, AZB. All of these are top law firms that pay a lot of money, an obscene amount of money to freshers. Just to put things in perspective, at a top law firm, you would be ending up earning somewhere between 16 to 21 lakhs per annum first year, right? It goes up to crores for partners, right? So they get paid very, very well. So obviously corporate law is, economically most beneficial, right? So a lot of our students go into corporate law. A lot of our students set up their own practices, or they will already have their own family practices in law, which they will join. So these are the people who will get into, let's say, litigation, right? And they will go to court, whether it's a district court, high court, or a Supreme Court. The third option that many of us, our students take up, is that they work in the legal department of many large corporate houses. So most large corporate houses will have a full-fledged legal department with anywhere between 5 to 10 to 50 lawyers working over there, and those have become ripe grounds for employment, right? And the fourth category are those of our students who go on to higher studies, usually outside of India. So right now, at least about 20 of my students are going to Harvard, Cambridge, and Oxford this year. Just this year. So every year we'll have a good number of students going to these top law schools. And I can tell you the story of one of my students who graduated in 2017. He went to a corporate law firm called Cyril Amarchand. He worked there in their Bangalore office for a couple of years. Then he applied to a bunch of universities for higher education for an LLM, for a master's in law, got through the New York University School of Law, and now he's in the legal department of a private equity fund in New York. And he's qualified now to practice law in New York as well. So these are the kind of stories our alumni have. And that's where they go on to work.
That's
right?
incredible. I mean, this is really good.
Yeah.
And what are the basic requirements for a student, a high school student, to get into Jindal Global Law School?
Drishti, do you want to take this one? You went through this journey a few years ago.
Yes.
Yes, sir. So the basic requirement is a 45% aggregate score in the 12th grade, and every student has to score a specific amount of percentage in their LSAT test to secure an entry in Jindal Global Law School.
Right. So it's important that we understand that we don't accept the CLAT score. The CLAT is the Common Law Admission Test, which is used by most national law schools. For Jindal, we use the LSAT India exam, right? And I can tell you, it's very, very competitive. I mean, we have very limited seats, and each year thousands of people apply to the LSAT, and very few, I would say about 1/10 gets through, not more than 1/10. Yeah.
And suppose they don't get into the cutoff, then what happens? What is the next step? What can you do?
So at Jindal, we have two programs that apply at the undergraduate level. The first is the 5-year integrated BA or BBA LLB program. The second is the 3-year BA legal studies, right? Now, the 3-year BA legal studies is a new and innovative program which doesn't prepare you to be a lawyer. Now, you can't be an advocate with just studying the BA legal studies. You will not be able to sit for the All India Bar exam, right? Which is an exam you need to sit after you finish your law studies. But it opens up pathways like we mentioned before. So a combination of law and business, law and international relations, law and public policy, right? Law and let's say human resources, right? So that sort of 3-year program opens up a pathway to law as well. So you can do a 3-year BA legal studies and a 3-year LLB. So if you don't get into the cutoff for the 5-year program. We encourage students to, if they are truly interested in law, take up the 3-year program and then do another 3 years LLB, which the General Global Law School also offers. So that's another option that we have.
So would they sit for LSAT after the 3 years program, or it's like some cutoff or some percentage? What are the requirements to get into the law school after 3 years of legal studies?
So there is an entrance exam even for our 3-year LLB, right?
Okay.
And given the cutoff, but we will consider the score. So let's say a student is applying this year in 2021 and gets a score on their LSAT, right? Completes 3 years, and now we are in 2024. In 2024, now the same student wants to get into the 3-year LLB program. At that point of time, there will need to be another entrance exam, thanks to the Bar Council of India. This is not something that we made up. It is a requirement for the Bar Council of India, right? But we will also take into account the score that they achieved in the LSAT India exam in 2021.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. So I think this is a very good initiative by your university. You know, the students who want to do law, this is a very good initiative. They can go through this pathway as well. Okay, Drishti, for you, what is life at the university? Students want to know from you.
So I could only manage to spend 5 months on campus, and then I had to come back at home. But during those 5 months, the residential life on campus, on general campus, it's very, very comfortable. All the resources are provided to us within the campus. We have food court, we have a beautiful mess, we have confectionery stores. So all our basic necessities are being fulfilled by the university on the campus itself. And the hostels, they are very comfortable. The resources provided to us, the path between the distance between the academic block and the hostels, it's also very small, so it doesn't really make it really difficult for you to travel to and fro between your hostel and your and your class. And everything is really very well planned and structured, so that one is not confused, because so many buildings, so many classes, so many blocks. So yeah, the residential life is very comfortable, very feasible, and it's good.
I'd just like to add that one of the reasons why people sometimes choose Jindal over other universities or law schools, apart from the faculty, is the infrastructure and facility, right? So, for example, I'm not so sure of many other law schools or universities that will have centrally air-conditioned rooms with running hot and cold water 24/7, 15 Mbps, internet speed, and Drishti mentioned the mess. I remember my law school mess from those days, and mind you, I went to a national law school, which was government funded, where if you wanted animal protein, you would keep the cockroach in the dal, right? These are stories. These are war stories of hostels that are government run, right? So, but what I've noticed that the food at Jindal, and even I have it obviously. It's made by Sodexo, which is an internationally renowned food and beverages and facilities management company. And the food is actually good, right? And there are a number of options, except that for a Bengali like me who loves his fish and non-veg, the mess is unfortunately completely veg. Right, but having said that, as Drishti mentioned, there is a food court with Subway, with Burkos, with Chowrangi Lane, with what's that Punjabi place? Domino's is there. What's that Punjabi place?
Punjabi Grill.
Punjabi Grill. Right, Punjab Grill. Right. So she would know more. I mean, she would spend time on the food court, right? So yeah, it's a fairly lively and vibrant place to be. There's always something happening. If you're into sports, there are football grounds. There's a cricket field. There's even an Olympic-sized swimming pool with basketball courts and volleyball courts and all that. If you're into music, dance, theater, there are these very vibrant societies on campus. We successfully managed to invite people like the Peter Cat Recording Company, local, was it called local train, Drishti? The
Local train,
last
local
local
train.
train. Yeah.
Yeah.
We invited the Manganiyar seduction. We even had Nasiruddin Shah on campus. So there's always
Wow.
something or the other happening, something or the other to do. Whether you want to strum a guitar under the flagpole, or you want to rehearse a flash dance, or you basically want to stand up on a box and declaim poetry, whatever it is you want to do. There's always something happening on campus.
Wow. I'm
Yeah.
impressed. I'm totally impressed by the infrastructure and the facilities. And so, what are the other programs available at the
All right.
universities?
So as Drishti mentioned, the law school at the OP Jindal Global University is one of 10. Yes, the law school was the first school that we opened back in 2009, and at that point of time, it was just one school, 10 faculty members, and 100 students. Now, as a university, we have about 6,500 students with 830 odd faculty members. So what that means is we actually maintain a faculty-student ratio of 1:8, right? So apart from the law school, we have a business school, a school of international affairs, a school of government and public policy, liberal arts, banking and finance, art and architecture, journalism, environment studies, and this year in 2021, we are beginning classes for our psychology school. Now, in total, there are about 26 programs at the undergraduate level that the OP Jindal Global University has. I'm not going to bore people with all of the list of that 26. It'll take me a while to recall each of them. But suffice to say that if students are looking for options in non-STEM, non-science, technology, engineering, and medicine, if they're looking for options beyond the usual drudgery of medical colleges and engineering colleges, so Jindal is that sort of specialized in social sciences, arts, and humanities in general, right? And as a result of our efforts over the last 10, 11 years, we've actually risen in the QS World Rankings to be India's top ranked university that is focused only on social sciences, arts, and humanities. What that means is that Jindal offers a bouquet of options for people who are interested in these sort of areas. And I will want to make a point over here, and this might sound like trying to influence people, but um, but I think the time of engineering and medicine is over. We have enough medicine colleges. We have enough engineering colleges. In fact, the AICTE a couple of years ago asked a number of engineering colleges to reduce their intake or reduce their seats or shut down completely because we have too many engineering colleges. And yet, what we realize is that yes, engineering graduates will probably earn more as freshers, but in the longer run, as people get into mid-level management in their 30s and their 40s, it is the liberal arts graduates, it's the social science graduates that end up earning more in the long run. This is not something that I made up. This has been, a case study done by Forbes Business Magazine. So I would encourage, parents and students who are watching this that think beyond medical and engineering. It should not be the end all and be all, right? Right now, let's take an example. Right now, the country is battling a pandemic which is not going to be solved by medicine. It's going to be solved by economics. Right now, we don't have enough vaccines because one of the reasons is because the United States is not releasing the raw materials for export to us. That is one of the reasons we don't have enough vaccines. What will engineering and medical do to solve that problem? They won't. It'll be diplomacy, right? It'll be economic sanctions. Right now, there is a dearth of oxygen, right? And recently, I think yesterday only, there was a news on the NDTV where the entire steel industry has come together. The ArcelorMittals, the Tatas, the Birlas, and including our own Chancellor, Mr. Naveen Jindal, they've come together and said, as a steel industry, we use oxygen. We are going to divert that oxygen to hospitals. That's not based in science or technology or medicine. That's based out of fellow feeling and kindness and ethics. That's based out of a certain humanity that businesses should have. It's built into business ethics, not medical and science. So I'm done with my rant. um,
No, we are, we
um,
are, we are
I just
enjoying we are enjoying everything what you're saying. I one important question which students want to know about scholarships.
yeah,
Does the university offer scholarships to students?
absolutely.
And
So
whether
we
it
do
is merit
offer,
based or need based, what kind
right.
of scholarships do you get?
So scholarships at the university, at our university, are offered on a merit come means basis. So what we do is we assign a score to each student based on, well, we assign two scores. One is the merit score. The merit score is based on the student's performance in the application process. So that would, for a law student, that would mean the LSAT India percentile, right? For the other programs that follow a more holistic admissions process, it will be a combination of the entire process, right? That's the first score. Then the mean score. Mean score is based on the parental income. Now, in India, in the vast majority of cases, the parents are responsible for financing their children's education, which is not the case in some Western countries, right? So we take a look at the parental income and we assign a score to that as well. Less income means higher score, right? Higher percentile means higher score on the merit scale as well. You put them two together, you have a combined score. Whoever's at the top gets a scholarship, right? So right now, about 50 to 60% of our students are on some form of scholarship, including some students which are on 100% scholarship, right? So we are fairly generous with people who deserve it, who need it, and who have shown a potential for excellence.
This is awesome. This is incredible. And one more thing, last question I want to know. Does Jindal have collaboration with the foreign universities, with a semester abroad? Yeah, though it is COVID time. So I just want to know this from you, sir.
All right. So we have three kinds of collaborations for students studying at Jindal. The first is a summer school, or what we would call a short-term study abroad program. Students spend a couple of weeks at one of our partner institutions and come back. Whatever they've learned, we give them academic credit, which counts towards their degree requirements. So routinely, we will send our students to the TC Chan School of Public Health at Harvard. We'll send them to Somerville College in Oxford. We'll send them to Columbia Law School. We'll send them to UC Berkeley, and so on and so forth. Then you have the semester exchange programs, where you're spending an entire semester abroad, spend three or four months there, come back, whatever academic credit you've earned over there will count towards your degree requirements at Jindal. The third is the dual degree program, where you'll spend, let's say you're in a 5-year program, you spend 4 out of 5 years in Jindal, and then another 2 years at one of our partner institutions, which includes Cornell. So you graduate in 6 years with 2 degrees, one a BA or a BBA from Jindal, second a JD from Cornell, which is one of the most sought after law schools in the United States. So these are the three programs. So we are able to send around in 2019, if I recall correctly, we sent about 300 plus students abroad, right? Which might seem a lot, but is possible only if you have a large number of partner universities. So we have, as of now, we have about 275 partner universities, the most for any Indian university, right? And of course, like you mentioned, ma'am, in COVID times, traveling is, well, not only optional, but it is literally dangerous, right? So for the last year and a half, unfortunately, we have not been able to send our students abroad. We have not been able to receive students from our partner universities onto our campus. But at the same time, we are very, very optimistic for the future. And, I just wanted to say, the night is darkest before dawn, but the dawn will come, and we will see a better tomorrow. We will have, this too shall pass. Let's just put it that way. This too shall pass.
Absolutely. I totally believe in this. And it's been an awesome even today, and we are getting good reviews on our chat box. I can see at the YouTube chat
Right.
box, and they've all loved the session. Very interesting. Thank you so much, Professor Majumdar and Drishti. Thank you so much.
Thank you so
All right.
much,
Thank you
ma'am.
very much, Neeru, ma'am. Thank you, Drishti, for taking time out. I know you have assignments to do, but you can go back to doing your
No
assignment.
problem.
All right.
Thank you,
And to
sir.
all of our audience, thank you so much for joining in. It was great talking to you guys. We hope to see you in person someday sooner than later. Until then, please stay at home, stay safe, and stay healthy. Bye, everyone.